buenas noches, yo soy Carlos Fernando Villa y esta es la serie internacional 2013 de Tiempo de Mercadeo. La semana pasada estuvimos hablando con Roger Saunders de Go Prosper, una empresa de la ciudad de Columbus en el estado de Ohio, en los Estados Unidos, que es una de las que más reconocimientos ha obtenido por su asesoría a las organizaciones que, bajo los efectos de los tratados de libre comercio de los Estados Unidos con otros países, ha tenido la oportunidad de orientar organizaciones con grandes resultados. Vamos a continuar entonces en la noche de hoy hablando con Roger Saunders dentro de unos momentos cuando regresemos. Ya volvemos. Good evening, Roger. Welcome back to my program.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here with you again.
Oh, nice to have you here again. Last week we ended up talking about the challenges that anybody has by going to China. And you were saying about, I asked you about the language, and you were saying that trust, building trust is another thing. Why don't we continue?
I think that's it's an important theme for anybody that wants to do business in China, whether they're exporters or importers of products to and from our various countries.
Although I would say it's not only an important thing for China, anywhere you go.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Building trust.
And when you have that trust, and then you have an opportunity to share your marketing story with the value that you bring into that particular marketplace, whether it's a business marketplace or a consumer marketplace, you're going to have that. You have the same opportunity as any other country in the world. Colombia has the same advantages that the United States has, the same advantages that Europe has. Or any other Asian country going into China. It takes time, but you can build that trust. I can build that trust if I'm really willing to commit to doing that.
I'm going to go back to what we were saying last week at the beginning of the program, when you were saying that you have to have competitive intelligence to find out who your customer is, what your competitor is, I mean, things like that. You started the company, Prosper, by doing research. And you and I were talking about the amount of research, of the amount of information that any company has wherever they are. And you changed from research to competitive intelligence business and things like that. Why was that? Why did you why did you change from research, doing marketing research, to what you are now?
That's a great question that we had to answer within our own organization first. But every company, I think, goes through these metamorphoses and changes that have to take place. We wanted to be a larger company and be a more important portion of the equation. Anybody can gather research. We wanted to make certain that we were helping the executives of various companies by creating the insights for them where they can make a better decision. And those insights can come from a wide variety of areas. They don't have to be research that we've gathered. We can be data collectors and data generators by collecting information from various different sources. Some of it, we could be writing those custom surveys. That's a service that we offer, but capturing government data, capturing data that and information and insights that companies already have available within their own organizations or industry organizations can be put into what we've developed as insight centers. And having that visual capability of looking at those insight centers leads them to better and more effective decisions because you can work analytically around that data, build the correlation out as to behavior, attitudinal, and future spending plans, as well as media and how it's influencing the consumer to come to the better development of your services and products.
Like you and I were talking before, maybe there is so much information, more information that is really needed. How can you filter that information? I mean, how can you get the information that you really need and don't waste time by looking at things that you shouldn't look at?
Sometimes I think you have to flip the equation and you have to ask yourself, what is it that I'm trying to accomplish? I know what my product is and what it represents right now, and I have a bit of understanding about my consumer, but what is it that I want to accomplish with this product and service, and what additional data and insights am I trying to collect? And by looking at where you are at the end of the equation can lead you to, this is the direction that I can take. Some of it's going to be competitive situations. If I wanted to open up a restaurant tomorrow, for example, I can't say that I'm going to be a bigger restaurant than McDonald's in the next 2 years. I have to have a different approach. That doesn't mean that as a restaurateur I can't compete with McDonald's if I chose to get into that particular arena. But I need to think, what is it that I want to be when I grow up, if you will, that I can design my products and my services around their needs, the customer's needs.
Do you think companies are saying what people really want to hear or want to know, or companies are saying what they want to say, no matter what the customer wants to hear? What do you think about it? Because I read a lot of things about it.
That is an absolutely brilliant question, and it's being asked every single time. Steve Jobs of Apple, when he was alive, Steve Jobs said...
He's still alive.
He may be. Certainly his products are. But he designed products the way Steve Jobs wanted to have those products developed. He conceptualized them and made certain that they were built.
Common sense.
Common sense. Now, that doesn't mean that Steve Jobs didn't have an instinct and an understanding about what the consumer needed to do with that particular product. For example, when he built the iPhone, he said, I don't want this glass in here because when the consumer puts it in his pocket, it's going to scratch and you won't be able to use it. So he did, even though he said, I don't need consumer research, I'm the consumer research department, he did understand the consumer. And companies have to do that. None of us have all of the answers. We can build our own intuition, but we still need to be able to see the world through the consumer's eyes.
Roger, let's go to another commercial break and we'll be right back, okay? Vamos entonces a una tanda de comerciales y ya estamos de nuevo con ustedes. Steve Jobs and so many people who have been successful have said that they don't ask the customer because the customer doesn't know what they want or what they need. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that to a degree, because the customer, there's engineering feats that have been created throughout the centuries that the customer didn't necessarily ask for initially, but then they fell in love with it and it became an absolute necessity for them. We all had, a couple of hundred years ago, a horse. We didn't know that we needed a car until a car was developed. But once that combustion engine was developed, incremental improvements were made on that automobile, and it became faster and safer and quieter and more fuel efficient over time. That was driven by the consumer and by the marketplace of the consumer saying, I need that. I need a different style. I need different colors. I need more comfortable seats. The same thing could be said of the watches that we might wear, the clothes that we may choose to put on, the food that we might buy at the store and put into the mouth.
Then the amount of research that we should do in order for us to know the customer and to know what's going on, how can it be measured or known? To what point I should go?
I think when you think of research like data can be collected from a wide variety of different sources. And what you can do via proper analytics, you can see relationships or correlations between one set of data and research compared to another. A simplistic form, consumer happiness, consumer confidence goes up, and we see when that happens, people spend more from a discretionary spend. Notice that I didn't say income went up and discretionary expenditures go up. That happens as well. But the happiness and the confidence of the future 6 months can drive those things.
I keep asking about research because I know that you know a lot about research and you have done research here at the company. Now people are, so many marketers are asking about research because, you know, quantitative, qualitative, and then ethnographics, and then there's another type of research. Which one is what you think should be done about that? I mean, can we mix, or should we mix them all, qualitative, quantitative, ethnographics, and then what they are doing now? What's the best thing to do about research?
You know, I don't think there's any one best
Best?
way
No,
to,
no
to,
best.
to
There has to be a mix.
to do research. I think there is a mix, just as I don't think there's any one best medium to reach a consumer and influence them. There's a variety that are going to give you the results that you might be looking for. In today's world, it could be television, it could be radio, but it also could be a blend of the social media, internet usage, emails, in-store types of things. It's the same thing with market research. I think that you need qualitative research. We do not do qualitative research. We have partner firms that we align with, but that's not a strength of ours. So we don't do qualitative research. But I would tell you, if you were going to go out and bet $1 billion on the expansion of your product in the next year, moving it into a brand new market, I wouldn't base it on a qualitative research of 20 people. I'd make certain that I was talking to a qualitative sample of several thousand people. Don't take proper research, whether it is qualitative or quantitative, helps mitigate risk that's going to take place. And if you're going to bet literally hundreds of millions of dollars US or trillions of pesos in Colombia, doesn't it make sense to make a smaller investment on the front end to make certain that you do understand what that marketplace is all about? Some of that is as simple as doing your own qualitative research of, I'm going to get on an airplane and I'm going to travel around China cities and I'm going to look at real estate and I'm going to be listening to consumers. I'm going to be reading the newspapers that are there in front of us. That's qualitative research as well. It's bringing people together and talking to them, talking to a retailer, and understanding how would you use this particular product? What price point would this move at best in your particular marketplace? Do you see any demand on that for this particular product or service? You're going to have a lot of people who are going to say, I don't understand that at all. And then you're going to have other people who are going to say, I get that. That's the next iPhone, and I want that in my store.
What you are saying brings into my mind a book written by Donald Thompson, Oracles. He's saying that asking people, no matter if they know or they don't know, by asking people, you're going to build an oracle, and that will be, you know, the best answer to your questions. So research is changing a lot. And those oracles, do you agree with that by asking people and having people, amounts of people, to whom you ask questions, you're going to get the right answers?
Carlos, I haven't read that book, but I do agree with the principles that you're laying out there. The consumer is somebody that you want to be able to listen to, and the more information that you're gathering about them, the better you're going to be able to make your decision. You have to understand, we all have to understand, that you're still going to break things into segments, if you will. If you ask me, Roger, how many diapers do you and your wife buy in your home each month? I'm going to say, we don't, fortunately, because we're well past the time that we had our children. But if you ask my daughter, she can tell you all of the various brands and what the benefits are, because she's got a 6-month-old.
One of the examples that Donald Thompson mentions in his book is Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? That TV program. Do you remember that one of whenever the contestant doesn't know the answer, there is a possibility for him to say, hey, I want to ask the audience. And look at that. No matter what type of questions it is, the audience is always right. Which is, something that tells you, hey, really, people really, no matter what question it is, if you ask the majority of the people, you're going to get the right answers.
That's another beautiful example, Carlos. It's the wisdom of the crowd. They do know. They're aware.
Yeah, that's right. Then we have to go to another commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Okay.
Vamos a ir a otra tanda de comerciales y estamos de nuevo con ustedes. Ya regresamos. Hey, Roger, back to China. Opportunities. Anything to say?
Carlos, I would love to share this with you and with people from Colombia, because we say it to companies that we work with here in the United States as well. We think that there's several big opportunities that we all should have our eye on. One, in China, incomes are rising. And as incomes rise, discretionary spend goes up. And that creates opportunities for your exports. The second thing that's a big opportunity, we think, is look beyond what is referred to as the Tier 1 cities in China. Tier 1 cities in China are cities like Beijing and Shanghai, Shenzhen, Guangzhou. And they're the ones that appear in your headlines and your papers, but in truth, that only represents about 80 million people out of 1.3 billion.
Yeah.
The big move is towards Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. Companies like Walmart, a U.S. company, which now has over 320 stores in China, they're going to build 40 stores this year in China, but 3/4 of them will be built in Tier 3 cities. Now, those Tier 3 cities have populations of anywhere from 1.5 million to 4 million people, which are still very large cities by the standards of the United States or by the standards of Colombia. Look beyond Tier 1. I think the third big area of focus that you want to take a look at is keep in mind that the Chinese population is very brand conscious. And what's really important to them is show me trust and reliability, show me safety, make certain that it's a sophisticated product that's very reliable. Don't try to sell me a cheap, shoddy good. And the Chinese population is requesting that. They're new to consumption. So loyalty to a brand hasn't developed yet. That leads to an opportunity, but it's a challenge because they're going to trade off to another brand to experiment. The fourth big area of opportunity is e-commerce. And e-commerce is growing all around the world.
All over the world.
I know that Colombia is rapidly moving ahead.
Yes.
And it's rapidly moving ahead here in the United States, but it is growing exponentially in China. Alibaba is just having great growth patterns in the products that they're selling. They're selling products on dual sites. They have Tmall, and there's lots of other e-commerce sites that are growing up. That gives an opportunity for somebody, a company from Colombia, for example, that says, I really want to move some products. I don't want to invest in expensive real estate. I can't build a flagship store, but e-commerce takes that product through to them, and it softens the market for them. I think the fifth big area of opportunity that you can find in China is the Chinese population culturally wants to make the right decision.
Yes.
They really are conscious of that. Colombia has wonderful family relationships, and you rely on your population. We like to think in the United States that we have wonderful family relationships. Family relationships are very, very tight in China. You will see mother and daughter walking arm in arm down the street. You'll see friendships walking arm in arm down the street in China. People ask the opinion of their friends and their neighbors. So they've got a built-in social network, and they share that information very, very fast. It's a big opportunity if you can capitalize on that, because now you're going to have somebody else carrying forward your message. And the sixth opportunity that I would say to all of us is that China is going to impact worldwide markets, and it's going to impact it in a very positive way. They're going to want to export things to our countries. They're going to accept those products in their own country, and they're going to be great travelers. The Chinese population, by 2015, it is estimated that 100 million Chinese will travel someplace internationally a year. Think of that impact on our hotels, on our airplanes, on our port systems, the things that they may buy when they're within our various countries. So those are six big opportunities, I think, that exist in China over the course of the next 5 to 10 years.
You know something, Roger? We're running out of time, but what I like about the programs, the two programs that I have done with you, is that whatever we say or you say is applicable, it's useful no matter where, not only to China, but anywhere, any place in the world. So that's the good thing about what we have talked about. And for that, I thank you very much, because we're running out of time. I hope to have you in Colombia pretty soon, so that we can keep talking over there, and you can bring all the experience and the information you have to our marketers. Thank you again.
Thank you for coming to Columbus, Ohio.
And thank you for letting us use your facility here. Ya ustedes ven, pues, de verdad, unos grandes programas con Roger Saunders y de mucha ayuda para todos nosotros. Por el momento, muchísimas gracias y una feliz noche. Muy buenas noches, yo soy Carlos Fernando Villa y esta es la serie internacional 2013 de Tiempo de Mercadeo. La semana pasada estuvimos hablando con Roger Saunders de Go Prosper, una empresa de la ciudad de Columbus en el estado de Ohio, en los Estados Unidos, que es una de las que más reconocimientos ha obtenido por su asesoría a las organizaciones que, bajo los efectos de los tratados de libre comercio de los... And why did you change from research, doing marketing research, to what you are now?
That's a great question that we had to answer within our own organization first. But every company, I think, goes through these metamorphoses and changes that have to take place. We wanted to be a larger company and be a more important portion of the equation. Anybody can gather research. We wanted to make certain that we were helping the executives of various companies by creating the insights for them where they can make a better decision. And those insights can come from a wide variety of areas. They don't have to be research that we're willing to commit to doing that.
I'm going to go back to what we were saying last week at the beginning of the program, when you were saying that you have to have competitive intelligence to find out who your customer is, what your competitor is, I mean, things like that. You started the company, Prosper, by doing research. And you and I were talking about the amount of research, of the amount of information that any company has wherever they are. And you changed from research to competitive intelligence business and things like that. Why was that? Why did you come from
Estados Unidos con otros países, ha tenido la oportunidad de orientar organizaciones con grandes resultados. Vamos a continuar entonces en la noche de hoy hablando con Roger Saunders dentro de unos momentos cuando regresemos. Ya volvemos.
Good evening, Roger. Welcome back to my program.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here with you again.
Oh, nice to have you here again. Last week we ended up talking about the challenges that anybody has by going to China. And you were saying about, I asked you about the language, and you were saying that trust, building trust is another thing. Why don't we continue?
I think that's it's an important theme for anybody that wants to do business in China, whether they're exporters or importers of products to and from our various countries.
Although I would say it's not only an important thing for China, anywhere you go.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Building trust.
And when you have that trust, and then you have an opportunity to share your marketing story with the value that you bring into that particular marketplace, whether it's a business marketplace or a consumer marketplace, you're going to have that. You have the same opportunity as any other country in the world. Colombia has the same advantages that the United States has, the same advantages that Europe has. Or any other Asian country going into China. It takes time, but you can build that trust. I can build that trust if I'm really